You don't need a massive plan. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need one small habit, repeated again and again, until it rewires your destiny. You think success is loud, flashy, dramatic. Wrong. Success is silent. It's what you do when no one's watching. It's that tiny choice you make at 5 a.m., the one that doesn't look like much, until it changes everything. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, lost, average, this is your moment. This is where you wake up. Because I'm about to show you how small habits, done right, don't just shape your future, they explode it. You think success requires a radical shift, a dramatic life overhaul, or a burst of unstoppable motivation. But it doesn't. It begins with just one small choice, repeated over time with intention. That's the quiet truth no one talks about. Take 1 minute. Just one. One extra minute of effort when you're tired. One more minute of stillness when you're overwhelmed. 1 minute of pushing past resistance. That minute may seem insignificant, almost too small to matter, but it holds power. Because when you teach yourself not to quit, when you choose to stay just one more minute in the discomfort, that's when resilience is built. That's when you separate yourself from the crowd. Most people stop the moment it gets hard. But if you stay, if you fight for that extra 60 seconds, you train your brain to believe that you don't fold. You ask finish. That's not willpower. That's identity training. And it starts by honoring the smallest unit of time with the biggest amount of presence. So many people believe they need to become someone different in order to succeed. But the truth is, you don't need to find yourself. You need to build yourself, habit by habit. What you do consistently becomes who you are. Not your dreams, not your words. Yours habits. If you want to be mentally strong, practice saying no to the things that drain you. If you want to be financially free, build the habit of controlling your spending. Daily, not someday. If you want to feel better in your body, you don't need a 2-hour gym session. You need 10 minutes of movement every single day until it becomes second nature. The key isn't perfection, it's repetition. The moment you start showing up for yourself in small ways, you begin to see yourself differently. You become a person who keeps promises, even when they're small, especially when they're small. And that self-trust, that identity shift, that's where the breakthrough begins. Most people fail not because they don't try, but because they overcomplicate the process. They try to change everything at once, and when it becomes overwhelming, they quit. But real change doesn't come from intensity. It comes from integration. That means attaching new habits to what you already do. You pour a cup of coffee every morning. Do 5 squats while it brews. You brush your teeth. Say 3 things you're grateful for while the brush moves. This is called habit stacking, and it's genius because it removes friction. You're not creating new time. You're embedding new power into time you already use. No more, I don't have time. You do. You've just never been taught how to optimize it. The human brain craves rhythm. And when you stack a small, powerful habit onto an existing one, you don't just build consistency, you build momentum. And momentum, once it's in motion, is unstoppable. Let me tell you a secret. Boredom is not your enemy, it's your test. Everybody wants motivation, excitement, and fast results. But champions, real ones, show up when the feeling is gone. They do the work when the spark is dull. They embrace the repetition, the quiet discipline, the boring grind that no one celebrates. That's where the magic is. You won't always feel like doing the thing. You won't always feel on fire. But your future doesn't care about your feelings. It responds to your latest discipline. The habit you repeat when no one is watching. That's the one shaping your future. And if you can do it when it's boring, if you can keep showing up when the novelty wears off, then you've already won. Because success doesn't come from bursts. It comes from as board mastery. Learn to love the routine, and it will take you further than hype ever could. Your morning is not just the start of your day. It's the foundation of your life. What you do in the first hour determines how you think, feel, and act for the rest of the day. That first hour should be yours, fully, fiercely, and without apology. Don't check your phone. Don't scroll through someone else's life. Start with vast you. Move your body. Write your thoughts. Speak your intentions out loud. Declare who you are before the world has a chance to tell you otherwise. That morning habit doesn't need to be long. It needs to be as anchored. Even 10 minutes of clarity in the morning can set you up for a day of power. Because when you win your morning, you're not reacting to the world. You're as leading it. And the person who leads their day with intention, leads their life with vision. You don't need to know how you'll win the next year. You need to know how you'll win today. That's where all your power lies, in the present. It's easy to get overwhelmed by big goals and long timelines. But everything you want starts with a simple question. What's one thing I can do today that moves me forward? It might be a 5-minute workout. It might be drinking more water. It might be sending that email you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, commit to it, do it. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day. These tiny wins are not insignificant. They're compound interest for your confidence. When you stack small wins daily, your brain starts to believe, I follow through. And when that belief is cemented, there's nothing you can't do. Because a person who wins their day ends up winning as everything. You don't need more hours in the day. You need to become as intentional with the ones you already have. And that begins by learning how to stack habits instead of struggle through them. Most people fail not because they're incapable, but because they try to overhaul their entire life in one go. They create massive to-do lists, set unrealistic expectations, and by day 3, they're exhausted, discouraged, and right back where they started. But here's the truth: success doesn't come from intensity. It comes from strategy. And one of the most powerful strategies you can apply starting today is habit stacking. You already have dozens of habits hardwired into your day. Brushing your teeth, pouring coffee, taking a shower, commuting to work. These are anchors. You don't have to think about them. They happen automatically. So why not attach a powerful new habit to one that already exists? That's how you create change without adding pressure. That's how transformation fits naturally into your life. Imagine this. While brushing your teeth in the morning, you look in the mirror and speak 3 goals into existence. While your coffee brews, you do 10 squats or 5 push-ups. During your commute, you listen to a podcast that sharpens your mindset. These small, seemingly insignificant actions may feel like background noise in your day, but when they're repeated consistently, they create rhythm. And rhythm is what your brain craves. It's easier to follow a flow than to force a routine. That's the beauty of habit stacking. It lowers resistance. It doesn't demand more time. It simply redirects your focus within time you already use. And this is where most people miss the point. They think change has to be dramatic. But transformation is almost always subtle at first. You don't need to disrupt your whole life. You need to quietly rewire it, habit by habit, stack by stack. There's power in momentum, and habit stacking builds it without you even realizing. Think about how small hinges swing big doors. A 2-minute stretch after your shower can improve your mobility. A gratitude list while waiting for your coffee can shift your entire mindset. These are not major sacrifices. They're not time-consuming, they're not complicated, and they don't require motivation. What they require is placement. And once you get strategic about where you place these habits, you stop relying on willpower and start relying on your structure. The real enemy of growth isn't laziness, it's chaos. Too many people are chasing discipline when what they really need is organization. Your life doesn't need to be harder, it needs to be better designed. Habit stacking is the blueprint. When people say, I don't have time, what they're really saying is, I don't have clarity. But when you begin to map your habits onto routines you already have, you start to see time differently. That 10-minute scroll on your phone while waiting in line, it becomes 10 minutes of learning if you swap it for an audiobook. That autopilot morning routine, it becomes a launch pad for your day when infused with intention. You're not adding pressure, you're adding purpose you. And purpose is what energizes you. It's what gets you out of bed with clarity instead of chaos. Stacking habits allows your life to work for you instead of against you. It's a shift from surviving the day to commanding it. And when your day is designed with micro moments of growth, you no longer feel overwhelmed by massive goals, because every hour is infused with small victories. Another reason habit stacking works is because it builds identity without the mental load. You don't have to think, I need to become a person who works out. You just pair movement with your morning. And over time, your brain identifies that action with who you are. That's how identity is built, not through declarations, but through demonstrations. Every time you act, you vote for the kind of person you want to be. The magic of stacking habits is that those votes happen without conscious effort. And suddenly, you find yourself saying, this is just what I do. That's a powerful place to be. Because when it becomes who you are, it no longer feels hard. It no longer feels foreign. It feels like home. And the more habits you stack, the more aligned your identity becomes with your ambitions. In a world that worships hustle and burnout, stacking habits is a radical form of intelligence. It says, I don't need to run faster. I need to move smarter. You don't need to be superhuman. You don't need to chase every trend or mimic someone else's routine. You need to build one that fits you, your life, your rhythm, your energy. And that starts with asking yourself, what do I already do every day? And how can I make that more powerful? Because that's all it takes. The transformation you're seeking isn't buried in some distant future. It's right here, in your next cup of coffee, your next shower, your next walk. It's in the stacking. It's in the rhythm. It's in the way you reclaim the routine moments of your life and make them meaningful. We live in a world addicted to instant gratification. If something doesn't feel exciting, if it doesn't give fast results, we label it as boring and move on. But that mindset is the enemy of greatness. The truth is, boredom isn't a weakness, it's a doorway. The most successful, disciplined people on the planet are not motivated all the time. They're not constantly energized. They've simply made peace with repetition. They understand that boredom is part of the process. In fact, it's necessary, because it's in the repetition The dull, ordinary, unglamorous grind, where real growth happens. Anyone can show up when it's fun. Anyone can start strong. But can you keep going when the spark fades? When no one's watching? When the task becomes routine? That's where champions are built. Not in the spotlight, but in the silence. Not in the adrenaline rush, but in the stillness of practice. Most people confuse boredom with the idea that something isn't working. So the moment it feels repetitive, they assume it's time to quit or try something new. But in reality, that's when you're just beginning to build mastery. The boredom is a signal that you've moved beyond the excitement phase and entered the phase where the real work begins. This is where mental toughness is tested. Can you show up again and again for the same workout, the same writing session, the same routine, even when the results are invisible? That is where transformation is truly taking place. Not in the results you can see today, but in the F's foundation you're laying for tomorrow. The people who succeed in the long run are the ones who learn to fall in love with the process, even when it feels stale, because they know that mastery lives on the other side of monotony. If you want to change your life, you need to stop waiting for excitement and start embracing discipline. Discipline isn't flashy. It's not loud. It doesn't come with applause. But it's the most powerful force you can develop. Discipline means doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It's waking up early not because you're motivated, but because you said you would. It's putting in the reps when you're tired. It's showing up on the days you'd rather coast. And every time you do that, every time you override your emotions with action, you strengthen your internal resolve. That's what builds momentum. That's what creates confidence. And the beautiful part, discipline is a skill. You're not born with it. You build it. And you build it by leaning into the very thing most people avoid: the boredom of consistency. We've been conditioned to believe that motivation should carry us to our goals. But motivation is fickle. It comes and goes. Some days you wake up ready to conquer the world. Other days you feel like hiding under the covers. If your progress depends on motivation, your life will always be inconsistent. What you need instead is a system. A structure that holds you up when you're not feeling your best. That's where habits come in. Habits don't care how you feel. They simply operate based on what you've trained your mind and body to do. When something becomes a habit, it doesn't require debate. It doesn't need to be negotiated. You just do it. That's the power of discipline combined with routine. It frees you from the ups and downs of your emotions and creates a reliability in your actions. Another key to embracing boredom is redefining what success actually feels like. It's not always exciting. It's not always dramatic. In fact, most real success feels pretty ordinary in the moment. It looks like logging another meal, checking off another workout, writing one more page, reviewing your goals for the 100th time. These are small, almost forgettable acts, but they compound, they build, they evolve. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You take thousands of steady steps, many of them dull, many of them tiring. But they move you upward. And over time, what once felt boring begins to feel like rhythm, like progress, like power. When you train yourself to appreciate the small daily efforts, you no longer chase motivation. You create momentum. What separates those who achieve long-term success from those who burn out quickly is the ability to stay steady. Not perfect, steady. That means showing up on the boring days, the slow days, the days when the finish line feels far away. It's not about going hard once. It's about going consistently. Boredom, when embraced, becomes a teacher. It teaches you patience. It sharpens your focus. It builds your endurance. And if you learn to push through it, to work inside it, to trust it, you'll discover something extraordinary. Success is not just what you do. It's who you become in the process of doing it, even when it's hard, even when it's dull. Because if you can win in the quiet, you can win anywhere. The first hour of your day is not just a routine. It's your foundation, your fuel, and your edge. The way you start your morning sets the tone for everything that follows. Yet most people waste it. They roll over, check their phone, scroll through someone else's life, absorb negativity before they've even spoken a word to themselves. What a tragedy. Because that hour, the one before the world grabs you, is sacred. It's your time to connect with your goals, your values, your strength. When you claim it, you take control of your mindset. You choose to lead, not react. You begin your day not with chaos, but with clarity. And that clarity becomes your compass. It sharpens your focus, lifts your energy, and arms you with purpose before the noise of the day can steal it from you. That's not just a habit. That's a strategy for greatness. You don't need an elaborate 2-hour ritual to change your life. You need intention. The first hour of your day doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It just needs to belong to you. Whether it's 5 minutes of stretching, 10 minutes of journaling, or simply sitting in silence before the storm, what matters is that it's deliberate. That you are of choosing how to meet the world. The power in the first hour lies not in what you do, but in the fact that you're doing it on purpose. It's about momentum. When you start with intention, you gain control. You're not chasing the day, you're leading it. And leadership, especially self-leadership, begins at the start. You don't rise by luck. You rise by design. And your design starts with the way you wake up, the way you breathe, the way you prepare your mind for battle before stepping into the world. Most people don't realize how vulnerable the mind is in the morning. It's open, soft, unguarded. That's why what you feed it in the first hour matters so much. If you flood it with noise, notifications, bad news, comparison, gossip, you train your mind to expect conflict, scarcity, distraction. But if you flood it with intention, gratitude, focus, goals, movement, you rewire your brain to expect clarity and discipline. You don't have to meditate for an hour or write a 10-page journal entry. Start small. Speak a truth out loud. Write down one thing you're grateful for. Set a single intention. Move your body in a way that says, I matter. These aren't minor acts. They're declarations. Your declarations. You're telling yourself, I'm in charge here. And when you say that first thing in the morning, your entire day begins to listen. Your morning habits become your emotional armor. They protect you from the distractions, the pressure, the stress that will come. Because they always come. Life is unpredictable. People will test you. Deadlines will push you. Challenges will show up. But when you start your day grounded in purpose, you don't crumble. You respond. You don't just react to the day. You navigate it with clarity. Your first hour is where you rehearse the mindset you'll need when things get tough. It's your mental gym. It's where you train your focus, strengthen your discipline, and build the resilience to face whatever comes your way. If you want to become mentally unshakable, emotionally balanced, and physically consistent, don't start in the middle of chaos. Start when it's quiet. Start when it's still. That's where your true strength begins to grow. There's also power in the physicality of the morning. Your body has been resting, healing, resetting overnight. When you wake up, you're at the threshold of renewal. Moving your body first thing, even for just 5 minutes, signals to your brain that it's time to lead, not lag. It kicks your energy into gear, boosts your mood, and ignites your confidence. And it doesn't have to be intense. Walk, stretch, breathe deeply, dance. Whatever wakes up your body also wakes up your ambition. When you physically show up for yourself early, you create momentum that lasts for hours. That movement is more than exercise. It's a message. A message that says, today, I choose discipline over delay, action over apathy, power over passivity. And when you begin your day with that message, you walk into every room with a different kind of energy. What makes the first hour of the day so life-changing isn't just what it adds to your morning, it's what it removes. It removes the chaos of reacting. It removes the noise of the world. It removes the anxiety of rushing. When you own your morning, you create a space. Mental space, emotional space, spiritual space. You slow the world down so you can catch up to yourself. And that is where creativity lives. That is where peace breathes. That is where vision expands. You can't build a future if you're starting each day drowning in everyone else's urgency. But when you guard that first hour, protect it like your life depends on it. You create a rhythm that aligns you with your potential. You stop being a slave to the day, and you become a creator of it. And that one simple shift, that's where everything begins to change. You don't need a 5-year master plan to turn your life around. You need to master us today. One day, one decision. One win at a time. That's how everything begins. We get so overwhelmed by how far we think we need to go that we forget the real power lies in doing what's in front of us right now. You don't need to figure out your entire future. You just need to own the next 24 hours. Because when you win today, you give yourself evidence. Evidence that you're capable, that you're focused, that you're moving. And that evidence becomes your fuel. Most people fail not because they don't have the potential, but because they keep waiting for a perfect starting point. There is no perfect day, no perfect time. There is only a now. This is where the transformation begins. Not in theory, but in action. In the way you treat this very moment. Winning the day is not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things. One powerful action can create a ripple that shifts your entire trajectory. It might be a workout you didn't want to do, a healthy meal you almost skipped, or a conversation you were afraid to have. These small, intentional wins are more important than any big, future-facing dream. Why? Because they are real, they are in your control, and they compound. When you focus on winning one day, you shrink the overwhelm and gain momentum. That's how habits are formed, not by trying to overhaul your life in a week, but by stacking daily wins. You make your bed, you stick to your commitments, you complete your list. These things seem small, but they build an internal reputation with yourself. And when you begin to believe you're someone who finishes, you become unstoppable. It's tempting to look too far ahead, to think in months or years. But that kind of thinking often leads to paralysis. You stare so long at the mountain that you never take the first step. But if you zoom in, if you narrow your focus to the next 24 hours, you stop overthinking and start doing. That's where the power is. Think of your day as a battle. You don't need to win the whole war. You just need to win this fight. The alarm goes off, and you get up instead of hitting snooze. You get to the gym instead of making excuses. You focus for 1 hour without distraction. That's what winning looks like. It's not always glamorous, but it builds character. And character builds results. You want discipline. Focus on the day. You want progress. Win the morning. Win the afternoon. Win the night. Piece by piece, that's how you change a life. When you start to see your day as a mission instead of a mess, you act differently. You don't coast. You don't react. You attack. You move with purpose. And the best part is, you don't need more hours. You just need better as ownership of the ones you have. Too many people spend their day chasing urgency instead of hours living with intention. They put out fires instead of building something lasting. But when you take back control of your hours, when you commit to structure, to clarity, to showing up, you stop being controlled by life and start commanding it. You decide what matters most. You protect your time. You execute on your priorities. And that's what separates the average from the elite. Not luck, not genius, but a relentless commitment to us, winning today. One of the greatest gifts of focusing on one day at a time is that it teaches you to be present. Fully, radically present. You're no longer living in regret over yesterday or anxiety about tomorrow. You're rooted in the moment. And in that space, you gain power. You notice your patterns. You correct your course. You speak to yourself with more awareness. This kind of daily consciousness builds emotional resilience. It strengthens your self-respect. And most importantly, it reconnects you with your own authority. Because the more you conquer the day in front of you, the more you remember that you are the author of your life, not a passenger. Every day becomes a new page, and every decision becomes a sentence in the story you're